Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors are at a stalemate and they could be headed toward a divorce. What team could get the most out of Jonathan Kuminga? We'll talk about our favorite potential landing spots after this.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. I'm Wes Goldberg, and today we are talking about options for the Rockets and their starting lineup, and then we'll be grading the Knicks offseason. We'll be doing all of that in a second. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts, and I have the two of the best on the network with me, as always. From the Locked On Knicks podcast, it's Gavin Schall, and from Locked On Bulls, he's also a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report, it's Haize. Haize, how's it going?
It's going. We're getting closer and closer to basketball. That's NBA basketball. I can't wait.
Well, don't tell the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga, because it seems like they have a lot of business to figure out between now and the start of the season, with the Warriors and Kuminga still at a contract impasse. Shams Charania reported on Monday that, according to a source, quote, both sides know that likely the best case scenario is a divorce, end quote. Yet, according to reports, the Warriors have not been willing to engage in sign and trade offers for Jonathan Kuminga from teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. Charlie Walter from Locked On Warriors says the Warriors need to make a decision.
Because everyone knows, we all know, this is going nowhere between these two parties. First opportunity the Warriors have to trade him, they are going to trade him, or they will lose him for nothing. But there's under no circumstance going to be a scenario where in 2028, Jonathan Kuminga is leading the Golden State Warriors. If there is, that would be incredible, because I just think it's nearing the point of impossibility at this point that they could rectify that, and Kuminga's a mainstay. So he's got to turn into something. They have to figure out a deal. And as of right now, the Warriors have not figured out any sort of deal.
Haize, do you agree with Chuck there that the Warriors need to face reality, that there is no long-term future with Jonathan Kuminga? And if so, do you have a favorite landing spot in mind, potentially, for Jonathan Kuminga?
Man, that's a great question. I do think they realize that, Kuminga's future is not there. If they have not realized that yet, I want whatever they're on. As far as landing spots for Kuminga, I mean, I liked it when it was mentioned as the Kings being the team that was interested. I even liked it for the Nets. I think those are places where he can go and kind of be him and grow his game, especially if he's on like one of those 3-year deals and he can get back into free agency. But I don't really have like a perfect team for him. It's more about whoever's going to afford him the opportunity to really play his game and play his style, because he hasn't really been able to do that. It's part of the reason he hasn't been able to be a consistent part of the Warriors rotation.
Yeah, Gavin, what do you think? Is there a spot in mind, or do you think that maybe it is salvageable still between Kuminga and the Warriors?
I think it's potentially salvageable. What I keep coming back to is that and Shams Charania mentioned this in his article, it feels like Steve Kerr fundamentally doesn't believe in the idea of playing him next to Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry at the same time. And that's understandable, right? The challenge of like losing the unique spacing Steph gives you when the next three most important guys on the court all are not shooters, at least from 3-point range. So I think that kind of goes against the ethos of who the Golden State Warriors have been. That being said, if you wanted to make a case for it, I saw a great stat earlier this offseason from our NBA stuff. Over the past 2 seasons, Curry and Green lineups with Kuminga on the floor, 900 minutes plus 11.1 net rating, and 1,806 minutes Curry and Green without Kuminga plus 3.5 net rating. So at least those two, Jimmy Butler maybe complicates things, but those two have been significantly more effective when Jonathan Kuminga is on the court. So that is an argument for keeping him. I know Shams in the article mentioned that Kuminga's camp apparently doesn't hold any ill will towards Steve Kerr, which is kind of surprising to me given how he's been jerked around and his role has been jerked around. As far as perfect fit, I'm with Haize. Like, I don't see an obvious one out there. A team I came to today, and I'm curious the salary implications of making it work and what kind of deal Kuminga would have to take. But I feel like the Philadelphia 76ers still desperately need a wing. I mean, you look at their depth chart, and Kelly Oubre is like the main guy who profiles as a traditional quote-unquote wing outside of Paul George. on their roster. They have a ton of guards. They have a ton of shooting. And to me, that is like the single biggest thing I look for on a team featuring Jonathan Kuminga. Like for now, his rim volume is declining, or at least declined last season, and he's great around the rim. He's a monster athlete, creative finisher. He loves to shoot in the mid-range, but he's not very good at it. So I would like a roster that clears room for him to consistently attack the basket. I think the Sixers are a pretty good template of that. I think they could continue to use more athleticism on the perimeter as they try to salvage whatever's left of the Joel Embiid era. Him and VJ Edgecombe, maybe there's like a double sign and trade for Quentin Grimes. I don't know how feasible that is, but that would be a great ad for the Warriors, and I think he would make a lot of sense on the Sixers. I have a couple other teams. I don't know how much more you want to get into it, though.
I love that Sixers pool. I think that actually, especially the double sign and trade for Quentin Grimes, who actually can help and kind of fits in more with the style that the Warriors like to play. That's a great call, Gavin. I hadn't thought about that one at all.
Thanks.
I had the Sixers written down, Gavin. I love it. It's really interesting with Maxey and McCain potentially as spacing the floor for Jonathan Kuminga, and just as a young talent play. If you look at what Philadelphia is building, you can make the argument that they're building more towards the future and just sort of waiting out Joel Embiid and Paul George in those contracts too. There's this other report that I want to get to, though. The Athletic reported that the Warriors, Lakers, and the Clippers have, quote, sent similar signals, end quote, that they want to retain cap flexibility in order to pursue, wait for it, Nikola Jokic and or Giannis Antetokounmpo in 2027. Haize, are you buying any of those teams' chances to get Giannis or Jokic in 2027? Are you buying that we're just doing this all over again now, potentially?
Yeah, no, I'm not buying that at all. Like, it's a great thing to talk about, and I guess nothing's ever impossible in the NBA. We've seen stranger things happen, but for me and my money, I wouldn't be betting on him going to any of those squads.
Gavin,
can we get aspiration in here, right? Throw in an extra $100 million for one of these guys. Outside of that, I don't really see it look like if the Lakers, like we always talk about Lakers exceptionalism on these shows, right? And after Luka Doncic trade, as a Knicks guy, I'm a believer in it, right? If the Lakers want to call their shot with any star in the league after what they pulled off with Luka, you know what? Go ahead, take it. It just seems like things work out for the Los Angeles Lakers. Golden State, there's this funny thing where it feels like every single summer there is a report that leaks out that there is a universally beloved player, and the implication of the report is that only the great minds of the Golden State Warriors can see the value in this guy. And it's like, yeah, you know, they've always liked Giannis. It's like, yeah, everyone really likes Giannis. So no, I mean, we've seen Giannis like have like just like obviously he has leaked stuff out in the past. I don't know, and he's applied pressure. But it's been pretty clear at the end of the day, he wants to be in Milwaukee because I don't think the Bucks resemble a title contender in any form or fashion right now. And yet he continues to commit season after season. Nikola Jokic, we know, I don't think like Hollywood is a big appeal to him. Maybe the idea of playing with Luka, that's the angle the Lakers would take. I don't really know where Golden State or the Clippers get in on Nikola Jokic conversations.
To tie it all together, this is why the Warriors don't want to sign Jonathan Kuminga potentially to a long-term deal, is because they want to maintain that flexibility in 2027 for a guy who they've chased now for several years in Giannis. And to your point, Gavin, join the club. Every team in the league that's not the Milwaukee Bucks is trying to get Giannis, and the Milwaukee Bucks have been busy for the last half decade trying to keep Giannis. So we all understand where they're going, but you know, and like the Kuminga fit is what it is, right? It's not perfect. It has not been ideal. The restricted free agency thing has a lot of layers to it. But if you're not going to re-sign Kuminga for the off chance that you could actually sign Giannis in 2 years, Haize, almost feels like a waste of whatever's left of Steph Curry's prime.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think that they are trying to give it the best realistic chance to compete during Steph's prime. What I think Jimmy, Dre, and Steph all have 2 years left on their deals anyway, right? So, I mean, they're giving it a nice try as far as this is the roster that we're putting out here, and if we can do something great with you guys can have a great playoff run, amazing. But you do have to start thinking about the future of it. And it's not like the Warriors have the most attractive draft assets, so you know they got to start looking towards the future and what that could be in some shape, form, or fashion. They've already screwed up the whole tomb timeline things that they originally had that they thought was going to happen by the time they got to this point. So now they do have to focus on something being, and why not hope for Giannis? Is it going to happen? No, but hey, have some hope.
Gavin, 30 seconds, elevator pitch. Give me one more name on your list of Kuminga potential trade destinations. Give me your favorite one left.
Yeah, I had the Charlotte Hornets. That's not one that feels good because it just sort of feels like a team. Oh, let's just throw on like another young athletic piece. But I do think with the shooting they added this summer with Con Knippel, the 3-point volume you get from LaMelo Ball, from Brandon Miller, like that is a young, fun nucleus, and it could give them just kind of a North Star of like, we have to find the best defensive center we can possibly find. Like, and look, like obviously, like guys like Rudy Gobert don't grow on trees, but if you could find the right defensive center to tie that group together, I think that would be an incredibly fun young team. And you know what? Charlotte has barely made the playoffs over the last 20 years. I think a fun young team with some upside, with continued flexibility to move off assets, is maybe for next season the best they could hope for. And the thing is, you can get Jonathan Kuminga without really sacrificing your future in a meaningful way. So why not take that shot if you're the Charlotte Hornets?
4 of the Rockets' 5th starters are set, and the host of Locked On Rockets believes that they should go in a new direction to complete the starting lineup. We'll talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable these things are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I throw these things in my bag for when I'm working late or I need a boost before a workout. They're perfect for the middle of the afternoon in Miami. We have a thing called cafecito. It's a little shot of espresso that you're going to take in the middle of the day. Just gets you that little pep in your step for the rest of your day. This is sort of the same thing, but it's for everybody. Enough with the boring flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online. www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Welcome back to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. If you've been listening for a long time, please support the show by hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. The Rockets starting lineup is mostly set, but one spot will be up for grabs when training camp opens later this month. Rockets coach Ime Udoka recently told reporters that the 5th starter is, quote, to be determined. We already know that Kevin Durant is going to start alongside Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, and Fred VanVleet. Ime Udoka confirmed that much with reporters. He also said that there are several options for that 5th spot. Jackson Gatlin of Locked On Rockets recently talked about these options on his show.
From the jump with DFS, the thing that stands out about him is he is a veteran, right? So he gives you another potential veteran in that starting 5. If you add Dorian Finney-Smith to the starting lineup, he is another vet out there. He's a calming presence. He's a guy that won't overexert himself, right? Won't overextend himself. He'll stay in his lane. He'll do what he's supposed to do, defend at a high level. He's a solid point of attack defender. You know, he knocks down shots. He's okay off the dribble. More shooting is never a bad thing. And that's where I think DFS might take the cake when it comes to Jabari and Tari. Is he's probably the best shooter, at least on paper, until we see Jabari maybe realize some of his potential as a 3-point shooter. And that's conversely, that's also Tari's biggest weakness, is he's probably the weakest 3-point shooter, floor spacer of this trio.
The veteran piece of it would just be like a cherry on top. I think everything else that you laid out about what he actually offers as a player is what really makes the case for DFS. Like the point of attack defense that you were concerned about with Jabari. Well, that's not a point of concern with DFS.
So Jackson says that the Rockets should go with Dorian Finney-Smith, who they just acquired this summer, over Jabari Smith Jr. and over Tari Eason-Hayes. Do you agree?
I mean, I can understand the point. I could, especially the veteran part of it. You kind of just know who Dorian Finney-Smith is. My hope is that it's Jabari, because I think Jabari can learn a lot, not only being in the lineup with KD. I think you can allow his offense to kind of naturally progress at that point in time. He'll be out there with the right moments. I like Jabari's versatility defensively as well. So my hope is that it's Jabari, because you want to see these young guys start to take steps. And you can, you know, have your veterans come off the bench and rely on them in moments maybe where Jabari's having some issues. But I could see it be Jabari. I could see it being Dorian Finney-Smith also, though.
I'm going to throw out an option that who am I to go against Jackson, but that he didn't even put out there, and that is Steven Adams, because last season in 334 possessions, him and Alperen Şengün were the best 2-man lineup in all of basketball. They had a plus 30 net rating over, again, a pretty decent sample size. In the playoffs, it barely fell off, plus 21.8. They bulldoze teams on the glass in those minutes. I mean, Adams right there with Mitchell Robinson for the best offensive rebounder in basketball. Downside is obviously you lack for shooting, but you are just enormous defensively. Yes, like maybe it doesn't quite work as well with KD because you lose a little bit of mobility and athleticism to cover up for the fact that you're playing two somewhat lumbering bigs. Maybe that ultimately doesn't make sense. Maybe that's why Jackson didn't mention it. But I just want to throw that one out there just because the numbers were insane for them. And even if that's not a starting lineup, I hope that's one they get to. Dorian Finney-Smith, I think, is ultimately my answer. The Lakers, pretty much immediately after trading for DFS, turned in a 20-game stretch as the best defense in basketball. I think Jabari has probably a higher ceiling, not even probably, does have a higher ceiling on both ends of the floor. But for today, for winning games in the regular season, for competing for home court advantage in an absolutely cutthroat Western Conference, I don't think you're going to do better than DFS's like versatility defensively, his IQ defensively, and surrounding like Amen Thompson with just like a vet next to him and someone to help direct him and someone to channel those instincts, channel those athleticism really helps. And the shooting is no small thing. The Rockets maybe had the worst spacing of any playoff team in basketball last year. DFS last season, 41% from three, 5 attempts per game. Jabari has just not been an efficient player throughout his early NBA career, never above 33rd percentile in points per shot attempt in his first 3 years in the league. Maybe he's turned that corner. Maybe he shows a big jump in training camp. But for now, I think either Steven Adams or Dorian Finney-Smith are the guys that are going to win you the most games.
The Steven Adams pool is an interesting one because I don't like, I get completely like what he offers and what he brings to the court and how that helps. I worry about what that does for them in the way that they want to play defense and the way they want to get out sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I could see it happening. I still think the safest bet is Dorian Finney-Smith. I just hope that one of the young players. Not to count out Tari Eason either. I just don't think Tari's too inconsistent for me right now, even more inconsistent than Jabari Smith. So I hope it's Jabari, but Dorian Finney-Smith is probably the safest bet there as things stand right now.
Do they risk burying Jabari Smith Jr., though? To go back to your point earlier, Haize, that you kind of hope that it's Jabari Smith who wins this job. I bet that the Rockets kind of hope that it's him who wins this job. This guy was the 3rd pick in the draft in 2022. He started 79 games as a rookie, 76 games the year after that, 39 games last season. Some of that was because of injury, obviously, but then by the end of the year, he kind of was supplanted. But it's still starting most of his games throughout his first 3 seasons. Are they really going to bench him for a 32-year-old that they just acquired, Haize?
That's what, when you're trying to win now, sometimes you got to make those tough decisions, and that has to come via it. Like, development is great, but like you have to develop at the pace that we need you to, because now with the acquisition of Kevin Durant, that signaled that they're trying to compete and contend now. And so this was still a team that was trying to go the long, like, not to say that they're not trying to develop at all, but when you're trying to win now and you got Kevin Durant for one season that we know of so far, sometimes that comes with development taking a little bit of a backseat.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, look, if you think he's your highest ceiling play, like you should be okay sacrificing some regular season wins. But I think so often in these conversations, the onus is put completely on the team to say, like, hey, they need to empower the young guy. They need to give him opportunities. The young player also has to earn those opportunities. And not that Jabari Smith Jr. has been bad early in his career, right? He's been very solid. He's been really good defensively, shown real flashes offensively. But in the playoffs, I mean, you watch so many stretches against the Golden State Warriors where you didn't notice he was on the court. And yes, some of that should be attributed to the Rockets ecosystem offensively that certainly wasn't healthy. Their only North Star on offense was Fred VanVleet just going supernova and getting scalding hot, which did not prove sustainable. Kevin Durant helps that, but Kevin Durant is also, it's not the same thing as bringing LeBron James or Luka Doncic, someone like who's going to spoon feed Jabari Smith Jr. easy shots. Yes, he's going to draw attention. Yes, he's going to take pressure off of everyone on the floor, but Jabari Smith Jr., there's still like an onus there in terms of self-creation, unless you maybe see a little bit more from him and Thompson being able to drive and draw 2 or 3 guys, or Fred VanVleet being able to do that more consistently with Kevin Durant on the floor. So there are reasons to think his life will be easier. I just think there have to be noticeable jumps in his game for him to earn that spot over someone like DFS, where you just know what you're getting on a night-to-night basis.
One name that wasn't mentioned, Reed Sheppard. Lottery pick, top 5 pick last year. I'm sure the Rockets, like with Jabari Smith Jr., hope that Reed Sheppard pops and maybe forces the issue or at least forces his way into this conversation in one way, shape, or form. But we're going to move on to the New York Knicks, who continue to work out veteran free agents to fill out their roster despite not having much room under the cap. So what's their plan? We're going to ask Gavin after this. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for NFL kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Warriors and Locked On Rockets for more from the local experts on today's top stories. The Knicks have been busy signing Landry Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon, Garrison Matthews to try out deals to fill out the roster at guard. And now they continue to work out free agent centers, the latest being Alex Len and Trey Jemison. Gavin, you're the host of Locked On Knicks. Happy to have you here because this is kind of confusing. What are the Knicks doing? Because there's not a ton of roster spots, certainly not enough roster spots to sign all of these guys. What's the plan here for the end of the roster?
All right, so the initial presumption is that one of Tyler Kolek or Pacom Donnie is going to get traded to make room so they could bring in Landry Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon. As you hinted at, they cannot keep both of those guys without making a move. Like they have to be under the second apron. Pacom Dadier opens up a lot more financial flexibility for them, where they could potentially bring in a 15th guy right after the trade deadline versus having to wait until April if Tyler Kolek is the one traded. Personally, I think it makes a lot more sense to trade Kolek because there's no real role for him on this team, given the glut of guards that they brought in. Pacom as a 6'8", potential two-way wing is just sort of an upside bet they don't currently have on the roster. And outside of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, they don't really have a guy that you would describe as like a traditional big wing who can shoot. Obviously, Josh Hart can sort of play that role, but I think what he does is a lot more needed than what Kolek brings to the table. And then you take into account their ages. Pacom is 19. Kolek is going to turn 25 during the season. So that makes more sense. As far as the big men coming in, that's where you get to like your Windhorse, like pointy fingers, and you say, is there potentially like a bigger move looming here, despite the fact that Mitchell Robinson is awesome. It was arguably their best player at times throughout the playoffs. The Knicks front office has seemingly been trying to trade him on and off for the last 5 years, and it feels like you can never assume that he's going to be on this team long-term. And you wonder if maybe they're working a bigger deal to try to turn him into a different perimeter piece. And in turn, they're working out potential third string centers that would move up Ariel Hukporti, that would move up Gershon Yabusele in the Knicks rotation. I wouldn't bet on that, but it does have you thinking, because outside of that, there's not really a world where the Knicks will have another center on this roster. So it is a little confusing.
Yeah, I mean, watching the Knicks do these moves, it's just like, okay, what are they planning here? Like, we talked a couple of episodes ago, and I had been holding on to the thought, like, the Knicks haven't done much this offseason, but then when you look at adding Yabusele, adding Jordan Clarkson, like, these are really solid moves, and I think, that's what the Knicks are doing. They're making really solid moves. They didn't make the big splash move yet, and I think that's what these are setting up for the Knicks. I think it's the right route to go for the Knicks as well. Now, if they have a disappointing season or they don't make it far in the NBA playoffs, and of course they can make a pivot this offseason, there'll be a lot of teams that are going to be buyers on things, but it just seems like they're trying to flesh out that bench, it's never really a bad decision at all by any team to make sure you have depth, especially when you already have won over 50 games.
Is it not a little risky to trade one of your draft picks from the recent years, whether it's Kolek or Dadier, trade like a homegrown guy like Mitchell Robinson and do it to add oft injured Malcolm Brogdon, oft on a different team every other year, Landry Shamet, and journeyman center like Alex Len, or an unproven guy like Trey Jemison? Like, I understand, okay, hey, the East is open, let's go for it. Are these the guys that you are that you're going for it with to fill out the end of your bench?
So to be clear, if Mitchell Robinson was the trade, I think that would be to acquire another rotation piece, right? Whether that was a wing, whether that was like in conjunction with maybe moving a couple other pieces to bring in someone like Walker Kessler, who the Knicks had a lot of interest in last offseason before they ultimately traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. They would not trade Mitchell Robinson just to accommodate Malcolm Brogdon or Landry Shamet again. Like I don't think it could be stated enough just like how freakishly impactful he was, to the point that Joe Mazzulla was like, that is the one guy we do not want on the floor. He scares the crap out of me. We're going to play Hakamich until you just refuse to play him anymore. So I think Mitch is in a separate conversation. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Kolek is interesting because he was a guy, there's been a lot of reporting around the idea that he was someone Tom Thibodeau was really in love with and really insistent that the Knicks bring in. And he is an exceptionally talented passer of the basketball. Reminds me a little of like Kendall Marshall, if you guys remember, North Carolina a decade ago, who was on the Phoenix Suns, where he's this extraordinarily talented passer. And the question is, will he ever be good enough defensively to stay on the floor to show it? Will he ever be a good enough scorer to draw enough attention to leverage his passing? And he's someone who had a fairly disappointing summer league, didn't shoot well, didn't look that good scoring the ball. I do think he's the type of player who will look better around NBA level talent. And he really flashed during that stretch when Jalen Brunson was hurt and the Knicks had a couple of other injuries. Like he's putting up, I think over 3 games, he had like a 22-1 assist to turnover ratio. Like he is an exceptional decision maker, but again, he's going to turn 25 during the year. He shot like 16% from 3 last season, just has not shown any signs that he's ready to be an NBA level scorer or defender. And at his age, there's just not really an upside there. And you look at the Knicks situation in the East, right? No Jason Tatum, no Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson smack dab in the middle of his prime. Same with OG, same with Karl-Anthony Towns, same with Mikal Bridges. Like this is the year for the New York Knicks, even if it's just year one of the Mike Brown era. And given that, if you have someone like Malcolm Brogdon, given an injury to, let's just say Jordan Clarkson gets hurt or Deuce McBride gets hurt, there's a real world where Malcolm Brogdon can give you 18 valuable minutes in a playoff series. And we saw it with the Pacers going to Ben Shepherd. We saw it with the Thunder going deep into their bench. We saw with TJ McConnell in the finals, right? Like deep bench pieces, not that that's McConnell, like can ultimately swing a series, can ultimately swing your championship window. So I think given the importance of this season, it is worth the Knicks to trade a little bit of future equity for a better shot at a championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take a shot. Like especially where the East is now, taking a shot to do whatever you feel like it's going to take for you to get a championship is the name of the game here. And the question is did they do enough? And we won't really know till the start of the season. I think that the Knicks and the Cavs are above the rest, and you have like 2 or 3 teams that are going to be slightly above the rest of the teams in the East. But anywhere between like the 5th seed, 6th seed, all the way down to the 10th seed in the East is going to be separated by like 5-6 games, or maybe 7 games. So it's going to be a fun season to watch.
Might be too early for this, considering that they might still be making some moves here, but they do have Brogdon under contract, Shamit's under contract. Maybe they add one of these veteran setters or something else shakes loose here. But Haize, you mentioned that you were warming up to the Knicks offseason. Would you give it a grade?
Yeah, it's solid. I think C+, almost B-, that I'll give it to him. I think, I expect them to do more with the coaching change than bringing in Mike Brown, but I think what they've done here, adding Jordan Clarkson, who can sneeze and get 15 points, Yabusele is going to be really good as a role player for them. Brogdon, like I like what they've done. So I think, solid C+, B-, I'll give them.
Gavin?
Yeah, you asked me this, Wes, when we did Locked On NBA Game Night, and I was at a B+. I think I moved up to an A-. I love finding a way to get both Brogdon and Shamet on this roster. Like I think last year the Knicks' depth was just a question all throughout the season, and now 6 through 11, like that group of Mitchell Robinson, or if you start him, Josh Hart in that place, like that's as good of a 6th man as any team in the NBA has. Deuce McBride in that next spot. The Knicks are consistently just dramatically better when he's on the floor. Jordan Clarkson, a perennial 6th man of the year candidate. Gershon Yabusele, right, a guy who gives you legitimate above the break 3-point shooting, is a transition threat, can hold his own defensively. I think he was a fantastic ad. They get him to take a little bit less money than he could to get both Brogdon, who like for his career, 40+% 3-point shooter, still an elite an elite playmaker at this point in his career. And that was something the Knicks really needed. And they get that off the bench in him and Clarkson. Shamet, who was heroic for them in that Pacers series last year. Like I would put the 6 through 11 for the Knicks up there with any team, maybe short of the Thunder, Clippers, Wolves, are maybe the 3 teams I'd have ahead of them. But I think the Knicks have one of the most talented starting 5s in basketball. And a 6 through 11, you'd put up with anyone. I'm with you that I was a little lukewarm initially on Mike Brown. I do think he allows you to retain a lot of what made Tom Thibodeau great, with maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling in terms of his schematic versatility defensively. I think he's going to be more creative offensively. These moves clearly signal that he's willing to play 10 guys, and we will not get Josh Hart 47 minutes a game in January again. That would be fantastic. So I'm going A-. I'm really, really excited about what the Knicks did this offseason. Only way it could have been a lot higher for me is if they had somehow swung a Giannis deal, which never really seemed like it was in the cards.
It wasn't a loud offseason, to Haize's point earlier, right? It didn't grab a bunch of headlines and stuff like that, but you get Gershon Yabusele and Jordan Clarkson, 2 proven rotation pieces for bargain contracts, and you didn't have to give up anything to get those things, to get those guys. We call that good business in the NBA. That's just good business. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks to Gavin and Haize for their expertise today. Thank you for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.